This is Eli with Typewriter Minutes. Cinco de Mayo, or the 5th of May, is a holiday that celebrates the date of the Mexican Army's 1862 victory over France at the Battle of Puebla during the Franco-Mexican War, under the leadership of General Ignacio Zaragoza. A relatively minor holiday in Mexico, in the United States, Cinco de Mayo has evolved into a commemoration of Mexican culture and heritage, particularly in areas with large Mexican-American populations. With Cinco de Mayo fast approaching, we at Typewriter Minutes thought it would be appropriate to feature a typewriter with a connection to this special holiday. Okay, it's a weak connection, but how about a typewriter that speaks Spanish?
Buenos dias. Me llamo Eli. Welcome to Typewriter Minutes. Today we're doing a review of a Brother Deluxe 1350.
So we got this machine off Shop Goodwill, and I snagged it because I noticed some of the keys on this machine were special that you don't see that often. First one I've seen on a Brother machine actually has some Spanish keys. So first thing to notice is that this is a Brother JP1, but it's different than any other Brother JP1 that we have and that we've shown on our videos. A couple things make it different. First of all, it has a plastic base on the bottom. We'll show some pictures in a few minutes of the inside, but the base is plastic and the body is just a little bit different than on your normal JP1. Normally, the body panels on the side are one piece and has a ribbon cover on the top that just pops off. This one has a metal wraparound body that goes from here all the way over to here, and there's a little metal latch on each side of the ribbon cover behind it. And you push those down, push them down, and then that just lifts off. It's kind of like a reverse SM9 or SM7 on an Olympia that opens up this way. This one pivots off this way. And this is all metal around here. It has a little, this is a plastic insert. And on this side you'll see it's got little plastic rivets holding it in place. Two of them have come off, but it still appears to be in there securely. And it's just a little bit different. I'm not used to having a plastic base. I guess one of the downsides I noticed when we first got the machine is that there was a hairline crack on this side. If you zoom in, Mr. Cameraman, you'll see there's a hairline crack there, and then there's one like it on the other side. So what I've done is I've super glued it, got some super glue on the inside, and then I also melted a lock washer across the crack on the inside and covered it with epoxy. I'll show you what that looks like.
Here's the plastic base without the typewriter in it. And right here, you can see that our executive producer heated up a little lock washer and melted it into the little crack and then covered it with epoxy.
Did one of those on each side. All right, we wanted to show you the little hooks on the underside of the metal body. When you push it, it's just moving this hook back, and this little hook pushes down on this side of this plastic piece and it hooks under here. So as you're putting it down like this guy here, this little hook hooks under that little plastic piece. Like so. So I think with those reinforcements, the case will be fine. And then back here, you'll notice there's a little bit of cracking on the back plate that just kind of wraps around underneath from the back plate. A few stress cracks here and here, or surface cracks. I don't think it's not cracked all the way through. So it's just an interesting combination of metal and plastic. On the metal cover, there's, I don't know, 3 sets of doodads. These outer ones pivot down into these grooves here and here, and then the center one has a doodad. One of them's pointed up a little bit more than the other, and this guy, which has a little hook on it, pivots down underneath this plastic tab that sticks out. So far this hasn't broken, but that's just interesting that they combine metal and plastic like this. The inside of the type basket looks familiar. It looks like a later model JP1 that we've shown on some of our other videos. Just a basic type basket. It has the automatic ribbon reverse. You have to have eyelets on these ribbons and they come out and trigger the ribbon reverse forks. And if you want to switch them manually, you just have to go doink, doink. It's a very reliable machine, like all other Brothers that we have. They just work. I mean, it was dirty when we got it. We took it all apart and cleaned it, but now it's typing like a champ. These are just one of my favorite machines as far as being easy to clean, maintain, and they're just dead flat reliable. So we'll go ahead and put the cover back on like that, and you'll hear it click down into place. One of the reasons, like I mentioned, that I bought this machine is the Spanish keys. We only had one other machine that had Spanish keys, but it didn't have the full set. It didn't have this one has, if you'll come up here, Mr. Cameraman, has the upside down exclamation mark and the upside down question mark to use at the beginning of sentences. It also has the enye here with the little tilde over it. And then it has the accent mark. I can't remember if that's called the tilde or just an accent mark. And then the diaresis, I believe, the 2 dots on a couple Spanish letters, that goes over the letter U. And then a couple other oddball keys up here. You'll see this BS key. I guess you could use that for a couple different things if you wanted to write BS on something, but I believe it stands for bolivars, maybe Venezuelan bolivars. And then over here has what looks like a pound sign and then a degree sign. So it's an interesting set of keys on this machine. It does have the red repeat spacer, which is fun to have. And then it also has the tab button with preset tab stops. And let's see, forgot to take the carriage lock off, but the preset tab stops are every 10 spaces. So 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. That wasn't working when I got it, and that has been tweaked and now it's working like a charm. And then of course you got your ribbon color selector over here, black, red, stencil, and touch control over here, light and heavy. And like so far every Brother machine that we've had, this makes a difference. If you just lightly push a key, there's a noticeable difference between the heavy and the light. So light is for easier typing, H is for heavier typing, but it also makes the type bar snap back quicker, I believe. So a quicker typer, maybe you would want it on heavy. I usually keep it in the middle. And that's it for the keyboard. Okay, if you've seen our videos, you're familiar with the features on the Brothers. But Eli, why don't you tell us what some of the basics are back here?
There's the carriage lock. It's on right now, but when you're ready to type, just
flip it like that. So let's leave it in the unlocked position so that we can move the carriage.
There's the platen knob, the carriage release lever.
There's only one, like on a lot of ultra portables, there's just one carriage release lever on that side, not on the other side.
There's the push and slide margins. Just push it down and slide it.
Very easy and reliable.
There's the switch blade paper support.
Doink. That's always nice. On some of the later model Brothers, even though this is a later model Brother, they got rid of the paper support. I guess it was just a cost-saving feature, so it's kind of nice to still see it here because that keeps the paper from flopping over the back side. And then we have a paper bail, but we noticed something. What did we notice on the paper bail?
There's no little ergonomic hooks.
Yeah, on some of the Brothers, there's a little hook on this side and this side that just makes it a hair bit easier to grab and pull up. This doesn't have them. So not a big deal. It just looks like a teeny tiny cost saving measure. It still works. And then it also has the little eraser table thing here that I guess people used to lay it flat and then you could erase on there, but don't do that on this machine. Please keep your eraser and your eraser shavings away from your typewriters. And then over here we have the line spacing. Single space, space and a half, double space, and then R is the release position. So if you release it, you know, be my guest, the clicks are gone and you can move it wherever you need to on a form if you're typing. And then when you're done, just click it back into place, either single, space and a half, or double space. And then I can't remember if we showed this in our other videos, but on the little, up by the ribbon vibrator, there's a little tiny divot on this side and a little divot on this side, and you can stick a pin in there, a pin or a pencil, and either turn the platen this way, roll it to get vertical lines, or slide the carriage left and right to get horizontal lines. So just a little notice, but interesting feature. And I think that about covers it. The return handle does go, it has a little notch ball down in here. When you're ready to put it in the case, this needs to go down. And I recommend, I'm gonna grab it while I have the camera on, just make a little bubble wrap thing like this. This one is taped, so there's just a little cylinder, and you can slide it. I can't do it when I'm holding the camera, but maybe my trusty son will help me put it on. Just slide it on over the handle. That way when you put it in the case, it won't ding the body here. It looks like it's got a couple little teeny tiny chips, probably from that. So when you put it in the case, keep your bubble wrap on. I'm gonna get some touch-up paint and touch that up. So, all right, we'll do the type test next.
And now it's time for the type test. But first we're going to look at the feet.
All right, smarty, not that type of feet. On all the other Brother JP1s that I have a system down where I replace the feet. I have special replacement screws, replacement feet, and those, fortunately, these feet are still in good shape, because it's fortunate because my replacement feet would not work on this. The bottom plate and the way these rubber feet fit, it's like a double-sided, not double-sided, it's like a grommet. It goes through and pokes out the top. So long and short, my replacement feet don't work on this, but fortunately these original feet are still good. I do recommend that you have one of these rubber anti-skid pads under the machine to keep it firmly planted. And one of the things I like about Brothers, and I know I've said this over and over, but the rubber platen and the feed rollers on every single one that I've had feel like brand new. You can stick your fingernail in them and it's just still soft compared to the diamond hard platens that we have on a lot of machines like the Hermes 3000. So that's a plus. I still recommend two pieces of paper, but probably can get away with one piece of paper. So we'll put the paper support up. I got it straight, but if it's crooked when you put it in, just flip the little paper release lever. Can you see that, Mr. Cameraman? Flip that guy, and you can scooch the paper, get it straight, and then flip that lever back, and you're ready to go. So we'll start with a couple lines. Let's move this margin out here. Do a couple lines on black. There's the bell. If you keep going, when you get to the margin, your line lock kicks in. That way the type bar doesn't keep typing over the last letter, and then just push margin release to type into the margin. By the way, this margin release button also acts as a dejammer key, so that if you get two type bars stuck, you can either flick it back with your finger or push the margin release de-jammer key. The keys come right back. Do a couple lines on red. Okay, I'm going to pass off the camera, or grab the camera from my helper. And you see the typeface is nice and aligned. The upper and lower case letters were a little bit off when I got it, and I made an adjustment for those. So I'll show that real quick. Pass the camera back. So we'll do capital H, small h, capital H, small h, shift lock H. We'll do it again on this side. Oop, margin release. Okay. And nice and even Steven. I like the way brothers type. They do sound a little bit loud and clanky compared to like a Hermes 3000 that has lots of sound insulation on the inside. This doesn't really have any sound insulation on some of the other Brother JP1s. They at least have a like a little thin little foam pad on the bottom metal plate. This one doesn't have anything. It's just the bare plastic. So a little bit loud, a little bit clangy sounding when you're typing, but just dead flat, reliable. And again, I like the repeat spacer. Something I forgot to show, these this key here is a dead key. So on every other key on the machine, when you type, it advances the carriage one line or one space, but not those. So when you're ready to type a letter with an accent, you type the accent first, and the carriage doesn't move, and then you can type the carriage. I'm sorry, it's on shift. Let's try it again. So first we'll do the little accent mark. Type it, carriage doesn't move. Now you can type the letter I. And you can see you have an I with an accent over it now. Same thing with the little 2-dot diaresis. We'll do a shift. So now when I type it, it doesn't move. Now I can type the letter U. So if you have a word like vergüenza, that shows you that the U is pronounced like a W. So this has the full slate of Spanish keys. Got the upside down exclamation mark to begin a sentence. Same thing with the exclamation mark. Oops, exclamation mark and question marks to start your sentences with. So kind of neat. And if you don't like the way somebody's reviewing your articles and you have to type them a letter, you could just tell them that it's a bunch of... I'm not going to tell my assistant what that means. Alright, as we were editing the video, I noticed that on the red setting, every now and then on the top you get a little bit of the black, and I've done some adjustments and I've almost taken care of it. Every now and then when you're shifting on the first letter, you get a little bit of black on the top, and every now and then just a stray little bit of black, but it's better than it was. And I think that's as good as I can get it.
And now a look at the case.
So the case is really in pristine condition. We've had several like this in blue, and I've had one in brown. This is the first one that I've seen of this light gray color. Light gray. It's got a black and silver or black and white handle, but it's in really good shape. It's got the 4 feet down on the bottom, and the zipper's in excellent shape. one little teeny tiny scuff right there. Otherwise, the outside looks fantastic. I've cleaned it. Inside is your typical Brother JP1 leatherette case, but one thing I noticed they've improved with this version is this little pocket here. On the other ones that we have, this flap is just sewn flat on there, and it's hard to get your fingers down in there without risking ripping it because it's just sewn flat. This, they've added a little expandable flap in there, so it gives you a little bit more room to put your stuff in, put your hand in there without ripping it. So that's one positive on this case compared to the nearly identical cases that we've seen that are blue and brown. And then it's got the little rubber things here, and I think just the weight of this machine sitting on its back all those years is what caused those little outside cracks on the back of the machine. But anyway, case looks great. No tears or anything on the bottom. A lot of times these are ripped on the bottom. A little bit of the edges fraying up, but otherwise the case I would say is a A to an A plus. And the zipper, always be careful with the zipper on machines that are this old, or cases that are this old. The zipper still works great. So that's an A plus for a case.
We'll wrap up this review of this Brother Deluxe 1350 with some pros and cons.
All right, first the pros. Those that have watched our channel know that I'm a big fan of Brothers. They're really reliable. They don't skip and bunch like some brands have a tendency to do. Yes, Royal Quiet Deluxe, I'm talking to you. They're easy to take apart for cleaning and maintenance. Just a few screws to get the body panels off. The Spanish keys, both the upside down exclamation mark and question mark, the tilde for the letter Ñ, and then the accent mark and diaresis, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for the letter U. It's in excellent shape, both mechanically and cosmetically, now that we've got it cleaned out and fixed up. The preset tab key and the repeat spacer keys are kind of cool. I like the color, it just makes it pop a little bit, and then the functions are just kind of cool. It has sounds like a machine gun, and then the preset tabs, it's kind of a compromise between having a full-fledged tabulator, where you can either set it with keys or on tab stops on the back. It's not quite that full-featured, but it does have preset tab stops every 10 spaces, so still kind of handy. All right, pop-up paper support, I like that. Instead of having nothing on the back and having paper that flops over, I'm a big fan of the little switchblade paper support. The case is in excellent shape, and like I mentioned, the little flap or paper pocket on the inside expands a little bit, so you can stick your fingers in there without as great a risk of it ripping. And then the interesting removable metal body. It's just kind of neat how it's kind of a reverse Olympia SM9 opens up pivoting this way as opposed to this way on an Olympia. Kind of like that. Eli, what are some of the cons?
The plastic base, there was a few cracks in it, but we think we've fixed that.
Yeah, we're not sure long term if the plastic is as reliable as the metal base, or if it's just this unit that had the cracks, but hopefully we've resolved that with this machine.
There's no dedicated 1 or 0 keys.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were doing the type test. There's no 1, so you have to do a lowercase L, and then for a 0, you have to do a shift O to get a nice size 0.
It's somewhat loud and clangy sounding.
Yeah, unlike some typewriters that have a lot of soundproofing, like a Hermes 3000, a little bit loud and clangy. The rubber mat on the bottom helps with a little bit with the sound deadening, but I don't know, the sound doesn't really bother me on a typewriter. I'd rather hear a little bit of noise rather than silently tap on a screen on an iPhone or an iPad. So sound doesn't bother me, but if it bothers you, this might be a little bit louder than normal.
And also, some keys are in different positions.
So you'll notice when I went and typed pros, I tried to type a colon and I accidentally typed an inye because on all of our other machines, this key here is normally where the inye is. So that's going to take some getting used to. And then, forget, one or two of the other keys are in different positions. I think the shift, the question mark is normally over here and it's bumped over one because they moved the exclamation mark down here. So anyway, might take a little bit of getting used to for some of the locations of the keys, but otherwise, that's about all we can think of for pros and cons.
That's all for now on Typewriter Minutes. Be sure to share, link, like, and subscribe. Adios.